welcome to you all at home.
You've still got a chance to win this race, haven't you?
Just drive. I wanna be the only one to make it through the light.
Hey guys, Harrison, welcome back once again with a brand new video for you, and welcome to episode 9 of Dre TV for Season 2, where we talk about some Formula 1 featuring me, the Mayor of Opinion Town. It's my new catchphrase, I hope you like it. In this episode, this is going to be a more controversial one, because it's one of those ones where I think I know I could get some heated response on this, and unfortunately involves my favourite driver in the whole wide world, Lewis Hamilton. It's like, about half a dozen people watching this and they're going to be like, oh Dre, you're talking about Hamilton again. Like, surely you're going to get rebukes on Ask FM and stuff. And yeah, I kind of know that. But, you know, I like controversy. I like getting people talking, and I think this is an interesting one because I think the timing for this video is about right. I mean, you may not have seen it on British television, but it was the BBC Sports Personality of the Year award show last night. The award ceremony that celebrates the best of British and international sport over the course of the year. We had some nice awards handed out, like Sir Chris Hoy getting the Lifetime Achievement Award, the England women rugby team. The England women rugby team talking all about they won the Team of the Year, narrowly beating out Mercedes and the Germany World Cup team. And in the main event, the main award, the BBC Sports Personality of the Year award, Lewis Hamilton beat out Rory McIlroy and Joe Pavey to become the first Formula 1 driver to win the award since Damon Hill in 1996. So yeah, the first time in 18 years a F1 driver has won it. And you know, F1 drivers have come close before. Like, Button was second to Ryan Giggs in 2009, Lewis Hamilton was second to Chris Hoy in 2008, and I think Hamilton was second to, I think it was Joe Calzaghe in 2007. I'm not 100% sure on that one. But yeah, essentially, Formula 1 drivers have been a little bit unlucky with this award in recent times, so it's nice to see a Formula 1 driver win. People think I hate Hamilton, but I actually voted for him because I wanted to see an F1 driver win again. So I thought it would be nice, and I'm glad that the motorsport community came through. It ended up being quite a convincing victory. Hamilton had nearly a third of the overall ballot in the end, and had just almost as many votes as McIlroy and Pavey combined in the battle for first between them, so he had almost as much as second and third combined, so a pretty convincing win in the end, and I'm glad the motorsport community all chipped in on that. But I'm starting to get the impression that there is a bit of a cult around Lewis Hamilton, and essentially I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in this video. And for those that follow my work quite regularly, you'll probably already know that I did a column about this a couple of weeks ago, talking about Hamilton and the following he has in the sport now, and how the landscape maybe has changed now for the fact that he's world champion again, for his first championship in 7 years now. And his, essentially, how he's come back to the top of the sport again, despite, you know, when you look at his record, you know, a little bit of a bout of mediocrity. You know, fifth, fourth in championship seasons, and even his first year at Mercedes, he finished fourth in the championship. So, you know, a lot of people obviously, you know, think Hamilton is the best driver in the sport, and that's a perfectly reasonable statement and a valid thing to say. And, you know, right now, with 2 world championships and, you know, arguably him being the most successful British driver of all time now, with 33 wins, I think he's now in the top 5 on the all-time list as well, passing Fernando Alonso. So the success is there, but it's getting a bit weird how there seems to be 2 very divisive camps when it comes to Lewis Hamilton. There are the people that love him, like the discipled son of Ayrton Senna, and there's the other side who really, really hate his guts. And as a guy that kind of sits in the middle on all this, I thought it was interesting to analyse and break down. Because I remember when he won the title in Abu Dhabi a couple of weeks ago, and obviously there was a massive reaction to that and a massive positive reaction. The mainstream media, surprisingly, weren't so up Hamilton's rear as they had normally have been this season. Fleet Street, obviously, I've been very, very, Hamilton happy this season because we've had a relevant British title challenger for the first time since 2010. You could argue, after 4 years of Sebastian Vettel being the top of the pile. Now the landscape seems to have changed, and I think the two columns that stuck out to me the most was the one in the Eurosport. Eurosport writing a column essentially saying, Lewis Hamilton is a double world champion, but is he a likeable one, as the headline. And the other one was from the Guardian newspaper in this country, where Joseph Kramer writes about, why isn't Hamilton universally loved by Formula One fans, and is it because he's black? So, Joseph Kramer essentially played the race card on himself, which I thought was interesting. Normally, we blacks like to play the race card on other people, which is, controversial in its own right. So people have asked me, Dre, do you think it's a race thing? Do you think people don't like Hamilton because he's black? Short answer, probably not. I'm never ever going to fully discount racism, because we live in a very racist society. We have a very racist culture in this country. I think there's a lot of talk about British immigration and a lot of talk about, just in general, the idea that, essentially for what it's worth, should we be allowing other races to migrate in this society? A lot of British people looking at culture and thinking, oh, hang on, it's under threat because of other people coming in. And I know a lot of people who are racist between their own four walls. My family are guilty of this on occasion as well, where they'll take pot shots at other races themselves, and because they know, because it's at home, they can get away with it. It's one of those things, and I know that's a thing, and I know other people have backed me up on this before as well. Short answer, I reckon probably not. I'm not going to totally discount it, but I think there's a lot more obvious reasons to dislike Hamilton rather than the fact he's black, to be honest with you. And the guy used Sports Personality of the Year comparisons to make his point, like Mo Farah, who probably should have won a Sports Personality of the Year title but hasn't yet. Jessica Ennis, who hasn't won one. And, obviously Jessica Ennis is mixed race, and Mo Farah is originally Somalian. Hamilton, obviously, being is mixed race himself. So, it was an interesting discussion, but, you got to remember, we haven't had a black winner since Kelly Holmes in 2004, and she was in athletics herself, so I don't think it's a matter of race. I really don't. Again, I think it's more obvious than that, and I think we're over analysing the situation to say it's purely down on race. A lot of people don't like Hamilton the guy, and I think, again, it's a perfectly valid statement and thing to say. A lot of people see Hamilton as the bling guy, wearing big, obnoxious pieces of jewellery. I mean, even at the Sports Personality of the Year award, yesterday, he had a gold chain around his dog Roscoe, and I'm like, really? Who puts a chain on their dog? And wearing copious amounts of velvet, which I think is a little bit obnoxious. That Americanization people have accused him of before in the past, because he hangs around with guys like Pharrell Williams, the rapper, and obviously music artist, and Tyrese Gibson. That was a thing at Abu Dhabi where they were seen multiple pictures of him, Tyrese, and Pharrell together. Michelle Rodriguez was around the camp, and etc., etc. And Sterling Moss chipped in it, and basically Sterling Moss, to boil down his comments, essentially said he's not really one of us, and we British are more reserved, and it's that British stereotype of not really venturing out, and not being that cultural, and just sticking to our own guns more than anything else. I mean, look at the proof of that. Look at Gareth Bale. He was a nominee for the Sports Personality of the Year award this year, and Gareth Bale finished in 8th out of 10. I'm surprised that Bale, a guy who had a brilliant season in Spanish football, even though to a degree I know he's overshadowed by Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi, but at the same time, he went to Real Madrid, was a vital part of that team, and on top of that, You know, he won the Champions League, you know, the biggest prize in club football, and scored the Champions League winning goal in the final in extra time. Many people forget that. He didn't even crack the top 5. I mean, I think the girl that did equestrian was 4th. So you know, the British middle-class posh vote is still very high with these things. Because equestrian came in 4th, and no disrespect, but they should not be that high, quite frankly. But, you know, I think that's definitely a factor as well. I think many British people don't like it. I think a lot of British people don't like America. I think a lot of British people don't like the American culture. And I think, you know, Hamilton being that guy with all the big tattoos and the bling and you know, the high visibility profile lifestyle, I think people aren't going to like him for that. My response to that is, well, Jenson Button had the Playboy lifestyle too until he actually started winning beyond 2006. Like, he was known for being the Playboy Lothario of Formula 1, you know, the rough, rugged English guy. He was dating that chick from Fame Academy, and obviously now he's got Jessica Mishibata as a fiance, and, you know, that's all nice and fancy. But until then, like, Jenson had that Playboy reputation as well, and he was on, you know, luxury speedboats with hot women, you know, like Hamilton having the high visibility, you know, limelight profile isn't a new thing. So I don't think that's really a valid reason either. You know, the lifestyle choices, you know, I think, yeah, it can come across as obnoxious, but I think it's also a little bit hypocritical if you're cheering for guys like Jenson Button while booing Hamilton for those kind of reasons. And overall, I find it intriguing that there's such a divided camp on this one, and I definitely seem to think that as a result, the sport now seems to revolve around him, and I think that's something that, you know, is worth considering. You know, like, I think a lot of the time there's the people that love Hamilton camp and the people that can't stand him, and I think the way F1 social media blew up when the Monaco and Spa incidents happened this season was a good way of playing it up. Because until Monaco this season, like, Sky were trying to stir the pot, but those two seemed to be getting along great. Like, they had the fight in Bahrain, and they were coming out of the car, hugging each other, like, great fight, and it was awesome. And you could see there was such tremendous sportsmanship there. After Monaco, it was more divided than ever. No handshakes, no happy-go-lucky feeling, you know, no applauding each other on a great fight. It was all very stoic, and, you know, Hamilton had the petulant moan about, you know, oh, we're colleagues, we're not friends, and, you know, he said, I'm going to treat it like Senna dealt with it, which obviously isn't a good thing because Ayrton Senna was a bit of a dick when it came to situations like that. But at the same time, it seemed to be either you're on the Hamilton camp or the Rosberg camp, and I know a lot of people still accuse Rosberg of being a cheat that day. You know, a lot of people on my Ask FM page, you know, I've had some nasty, awful things about this. It's like people calling Rosberg a cheating Nazi, and like, those people are scumbags and are awful human beings, and I don't try to, you know, use them in any kind of example because they don't really deserve any attention. But at the same time, it's evidence of things that have happened, and, you know, people again accused Rosberg of cheating at Spa, which again isn't very valid. Like, the steering motion was inconclusive, and beyond that, you haven't really got a concrete argument to suggest that Rosberg cheated. But at the same time, it's like, oh, well, you know, Rosberg's a cheat, Hamilton's the true champion, and, you know, people always say, oh, Hamilton should be ahead because he's been unlucky, and blah, 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 and, you know, it's so divided. And to be honest with you, as much as people like to say that Hamilton gets all the love, there's a very strong camp of not just, let's say, Rosberg lovers, but also people who are very anti-Hamilton and accuse the team of having a conspiracy theory of backing Hamilton because he's more popular, or the conspiracy of favouring Rosberg because, you know, German driver, German team, you know, it must be a conspiracy, despite the fact that the Mercedes team is based in Brackley, and for all intents and purposes, it's a British team funded by German money. But, you know, it's the way, it's such a divisive thing, and there's a lot of reasons to like Hamilton. You know, he is the humble, you know, mixed race guy from Stevenage who's had a brilliant F1 career to date, and, you know, as a black athlete, you know, standing out in Formula One, that's almost an impossible thing, and that's hard not to root for as a fellow Caribbean black guy myself, because Anthony Hamilton originally was from Grenada, and, you know, my family is originally Jamaican, so I can relate to that a lot, and I was a Hamilton fan until 2011, so I can understand the sentiment there, and he's a brilliant, entertaining driver, you know, and one of the best we've ever seen in this sport from a British standpoint and a British point of view. He's only the 4th guy, I think, in British history to win multiple world titles, and our first multiple British world champion since Sir Jackie Stewart, which was 43 years ago. But why is there such a divide, and why does the sport revolve around him so much? Is it because he's winning again now? Is it because of Nico Rosberg being a German, which I think a lot of British people, I think, still hold a lot of resentment towards Germany for the war, so to speak, and the fact that, you know, Rosberg isn't really German. I know people responded to me on that one quite heavily as well. There's a lot of different reasons, so I would love to hear your extent on the Hamilton conundrum again. I made that video last year with last year's game, but I think it's one that's worth talking about again. I think there is definitely a cult around Lewis Hamilton, a cult of really passionate, over-the-top, ridiculous supporters who think he's the disciple of Senna, and I think there's a very strong anti-camp as well, the people that hate him for no good reason, really, and I think I'm not quite sure why that is, and I'd love to hear your reasons as to possibly why. And, you know, if you got an opinion, feel free to send it in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say on this one, as always. But yeah, until next time, I've been Harrison101. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time. Sayonara.